Okay, we are live. This is Group 7 negotiation. The first question is, which team had the highest pre-money value and the lowest, and where did your team fall? So I'm trying to figure out how I can show you what we did, because we were given some other information that I don't know. We were told you don't have, like we got other offers, and we're not supposed to tell you that we get other offers. So I'm just gonna, I'm looking at the page. So what was your pre-money value?
So the pre-investment, we valued you at 5.5 million. So the post-investment would have been $8 million.
Okay. Okay. So that is actually quite close to us. We, our pre-money valuation was 5 million. So our post was 7.5. So actually we're really, really, really close. Okay. It says choose a student from the DuPage side and ask what were your goals for this negotiation?
So our goals were really centered around trying to make this deal, what's the word I'm looking for?
Palatable to both sides.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Thanks. I was kind of stuck on words there.
That's okay.
Okay. And let's see, some of this I don't know what it means. It says to ask you the valuation of X. I have no idea what that is, or does that mean anything to you as far as what you guys had to do from your side?
No.
Because that doesn't mean anything to me. Okay.
No, but the other things do.
Oh, okay. Do you want to go through them?
Sure. Becky understood the money better than I did. I don't know if it's sleep deprivation or just what, but I could not wrap my brain around it. But as far as the board seat, our concern was keeping the board small, but also appreciating the fact that Taylor needed to have a say in what was going on in the company. So we decided to have her be a non-voting person on the board so that she could be there and say the things that were important for her as far as the, I'm going to say morality of the company goes, the integrity of the recipes and that sort of thing. But then also Cantor was concerned about Maxwell's lack of experience in running a company. So he wanted to make sure that she felt comfortable and that he felt confident in her, but at the same time, he needed to be able to remove her as CEO. So that's why we had the stipulation of the 12 months and whatnot.
Okay. Okay.
So I'll let Becky talk about the IRR.
Okay.
I'm going to share my screen really quick, and I'll just kind of show you.
I mean, I get the internal rate of revenue. I just don't know what your X and Y was.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they're.
That I'm not really sure about either, though. So I was just, all the numbers I crunched were generally having to do with
Stock. I mean,
stock,
share prices.
yeah, share prices, things that way. So like it wasn't super complicated.
She says that, as I said, I couldn't wrap my brain around it.
It's okay.
I mean the numbers I was crunching once I kind of got stuff started going there. So we had kind of decided on an arbitrary, there were originally 1 million shares. So those were divided between Maxwell, Taylor, and Dank, their marketing guy, who had 10%. So they each had 45. And so we did our pre-valuation, which put the price per share at $5.50 a share. So if we were buying in at that amount with our $2.5 million, we'd be buying 454,545 shares or whatever. But we also wanted to put like about a 10% aside for stock options, which kind of changed the percentage of the company that people owned. So Dank went from 10% to 6%. As it turned out, doing that, Maxwell Taylor and RVC both ended up with like equal parts, 28% of the company, which I thought was pretty interesting. And then there was the 10% for the stock option, which dropped the price per share a little bit, but
Okay.
kind of balanced out the equity of the company, I thought, pretty well.
Okay. So I'm supposed to ask you 2 more questions, and then I'm going to have Casey do the MuMate side. The question is, how important is this deal to DuPage? Is it once in a lifetime? Pretty good. You could pass. So how important is it to DuPage?
I kind of got the feeling that it was a deal they wanted, but if they didn't get it, it wouldn't like break the company. That they were kind of using it as a way to bring in, what was his name, Rodriguez, who is kind of a new player in the company, to kind of see how he would do, and because he was showing good potential to be a partner, and so this was kind of an opportunity for them to see how he'd respond, how well he'd do, things that way.
Okay.
So
okay, yeah. So probably like pretty good.
Yeah.
That's how important it is. Okay. Also, how does MuMate fit your investment focus?
I feel like it.
Well, I thought.
Go ahead, Jen.
Yeah, I thought it felt really well. First of all, the amount that we needed to invest was right in the range of what the other companies are in our portfolio. It was in the same industry that he was in charge of finding things for, and so it was really a good fit as far as size, investment amount, and quality of the product.
Okay. Okay. So for the MuMate side, this is the question. Did the co-founders see things the same way, or were you focused on other interests? And I guess what they're wanting to know is the order of importance as far as board composition, pre-money value, deal terms, option pool. So Casey, do you want to answer that? What was the order of importance?
I would say that the board composition was pretty important, as well as the deal terms. The pre-money value, we were pretty close to what you guys said. The option pool was probably the furthest thing from our minds, honestly, when we were trying to figure things out. So I would probably put that at the bottom, but I would say that like deal terms and board composition were probably at the top. Would you agree with that, Lynette?
Oh yeah, that's what we had. So how does that compare with DuPage? What was your, like, if you had to rank those 4 things, deal terms, pre-money value, board composition, or option pool, how would you rank those? What was the most important thing of those 4 things?
That's hard to say because there was a lot of information on every one of those things.
Yeah.
But we were limited. We were given a budget that we couldn't go over, and so we needed to make the terms. We needed to make the terms work for you as well as for us.
Okay.
I love you guys got a lot of information because we totally didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot of information, but it was also like, now what do we do with this? So
yeah.
Right.
I would say the balance end of that question where it said who has the upper hand. I mean, I would assume it was us because we get to say yes or no. Like you guys get to come, hopefully with the best idea, but in the end, we're the ones who say yes or no. So
oh, you mean MuMate
has the upper hand?
Oh, okay. The back
has the yes or no power, right?
I think the upper hand would really only change from that is depending on how desperate you guys are. But from like reading the case, originally it sounded like you had gone to a couple different VC companies to kind of get bids. So we wouldn't know if we were the only one doing it. And so we are uncertain as to your level of desperation and how much you need this deal.
Right.
Yeah.
I think
So I
Because
guess
we
at this point, oh,
that's the next question though.
sorry.
Because it
Yeah.
asks, how did the Astoria Prosper term sheet affect your negotiation strategy? So we actually had 2 other investment offers to look at aside from the one that you guys just gave us.
Uh-huh.
So we had 2 to look at. So we had a general idea, and they came with, you know, pros and cons. And then we also had the option of not going with a venture capitalist and seeking capital through investment angels. So those were kind of like the options that we were going with. So we kind of had like a set idea of what we wanted to achieve. And if none of the 3 of you guys met within those, then we were just going to go with angel investors.
Okay.
Isn't that weird? That's basically the only information we got, was like, oh, here, these are the 2 ideas. The other people, and good luck figuring it out. And Lynette and I are like, what? We got no numbers, no nothing.
Yeah. Well, we were given 2 options too, where we could give you the money that you needed up front in the Series A, or we could split it and just give you part of the money and then part of it in a Series B.
Oh,
Then it listed some
Oh,
pros
wow.
and cons for that as well. For instance, you know, if you do really well and we've only invested part of the money, then we have to pay more per share if we go into the
Right.
B. But if we give you it all in at once, then we have a risk of losing all of that at once. But we were told how Maxwell had gotten her valuation numbers, and it made sense to me at least. And so I felt like the numbers that they were throwing out at us, not only in the original one but in the other one, it made sense as far as I can see where they got that. But I didn't know how we would decide.
They didn't even give us what her valuation was.
Okay.
No.
So we had to
Yeah,
go
we were-
what we thought from like the initial numbers and what we were asking and what the other people were offering. I was like, we seriously had no information. We were like,
Okay. So we had to offer things like talking about the CEO, making Maxwell the CEO was an
Oh,
issue
for the
that we
12
had to
months.
deal with. That was just an idea that I came up with because we needed some way to encourage her to stay on, but still have a way to protect ourselves if her lack of experience leads the company down the tubes. You know, if she can't handle the scaling so big. And then what was there was another thing and it just slipped my mind. Oh, the board seats. So DuPage wanted to keep it to 3, but they had Cantor on as a listening person. He just didn't have a vote. And so we thought, well, that's not really fair for us to have someone who listens but doesn't have a vote and not have the founders, not have Taylor have an opportunity to at least hear what's going on with her company. So we felt like we had to include her as a non-voting board person so that she would feel comfortable with our offer. And then we had to do the vesting differently. So originally they'd done another company where they had the founders were only vested a certain percent. And then it took a really long time, 36 months before they were 100% invested in the company. And so in order to convince Maxwell to stay, shorten that time frame so that she would see that we were serious about working with her, but still able to protect ourselves.
yeah,
Wow,
the only
that's good information.
that was that one of the other venture capitalist groups wanted Maxwell out as CEO. They wanted to bring someone in on their own. And then the other big thing was keeping Taylor on the board. That was important but that's basically the only information we got.
So we actually did pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah, we think, well, we both
Yeah.
looked at it, thought you did really good. The only thing we didn't really like was how the shares ended up working out with you guys being even with us. That was weird.
Why was that weird?
Just that, I mean, even though they're 2, like Taylor and Maxwell they're the founders together, but their ideas and their paths are clearly different. Since Taylor's the one who kind of created and invented this, Maxwell kind of came in, doing the other side of things. And so to have it be even, like, it just seemed like, okay, let's say they had 30% each and the venture capitalists had 25. That would make more sense to us in our minds, that the founders still have a majority. And I realize together they have 60%. I get that, or 56 or whatever.
Well, I feel like a lot of the more recent cases we've been doing with like the total amount of equity after investment is usually the VC has more than the founders.
I know, I don't get that. I don't understand that. Like, that part of it is like hard for me to get. Because you think they'd want to hold on to it. If they weren't going to sell it, then why do they give up so much?
Because the valuations, when it comes time to sell and they're selling the shares, they're making more money using the VC's
Even though they
money
own less.
than they would. Yeah, even though they own less, they're making money off of somebody else's money being invested in the company.
Gotcha.
And so they are actually getting more than if they were just struggling through on their own.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
So let's go to the next question, which we actually kind of answered because Becky showed us her spreadsheet, but it was how did you go about valuing MuMate, and you guys already showed us that. So we're down to the point of do we have to actually, are we just sharing information with each other, or do we actually have to negotiate a final contract? Because it doesn't really say that.
It just says share your spreadsheets and talk through it.
Okay.
I don't really see it, like, it doesn't really.
So I'm trying to see if, let me see if I can share, hold on. Oh, I just lost it. Let me see if I can just share. Ours is actually in a Google Doc. So just a second. Let me see if I can get it up here. Sorry, I have it open on my laptop and but it's not open on this computer.
Listen, I was all excited. We were only going to have like one thing to read this week. And then I found out you had to meet like 4 different times to get it done. I was like, dang it.
Okay. I do not know what I'm sharing. Oh my goodness, what just happened?
Just change your screen, like pull up something else in front of it.
Okay.
And it will get rid of the mirror effect.
Okay. Okay. Are you guys seeing anything?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you seeing the Excel spreadsheet?
Yes, we are.
Okay. So this is just kind of what we used to compare everything. So you can see on here that these Astoria and Prosper were the other 2 options. And then when you guys emailed your offer in, I just quickly put in some of the stuff that you had. So this is basically all the information that we had as far as a term sheet from Astoria and Prosper. So actually, if you look at it, it's the one big thing that we didn't do is we didn't set aside anything for Dank. And I think that was because we were assuming he would pick something up in the option pool. So our option pool is at 15, where yours is at 10. So that kind of offsets what we thought Dank would get.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, so here's our, so.
Did you not get the information that said Dank got 10% straight up when they brought him on?
I did not see that.
Okay.
We got like this separate, maybe that was in the regular case study, and I didn't see that, but no, I guess I didn't see that. So
When
you got
the sheet that we got, it just showed when it was talking about the venture capital, aside from the normal reading, the sheet we got separate didn't specify him at all. It basically just talked about the importance of the founders. It did, like, he was not involved in our information at all.
Okay, because we were told that each Taylor and Maxwell you know, they got their own personal funding at first, and then they brought in Dank and they gave him, and they, well, first of all, the two partners split it 50-50, and then they brought in Dank and gave him 10%.
Which I saw in the
Hmm.
initial reading that everybody saw, but when we got our separate sheets for the sides we were
We got
negotiating,
something else. Yeah.
did not discuss him at all, and he was not involved in it at all as someone that we needed to worry about when we were figuring out shares,
Okay.
which I thought was so weird.
Yeah, I don't think ours said anything about it. I just
didn't.
remembered he's a shareholder who has 10%, so we'll see how his shares get affected by all this. So I
got
put
you.
him in there.
That was really
So-
smart. So
So
smart.
looking at this, if this was a real deal, do you think that we could come to an agreement? Are we close enough on a lot of things that we could come to an, you know, if this was a real deal and you guys were really DuPage and we were really MuMate, would we be able to come to a deal, do you think? Because I think we're really close on a lot of stuff.
I agree. I think we could come to a deal.
Yeah, I think we
Yeah. So let's see, the closing. Okay. It just says discuss the key takeaways, terms allocate economic and control rights, conflicting priorities of investors and entrepreneurs and upside and downside scenarios, terms have a price, and VC valuation techniques. So
I
I
feel-
don't know where we want to go with that.
already.
I feel like we already talked about most of that. So,
Walking away as friends, and that's what's most important.
you know, I did see that we have to fill out something that says what our final, that what our negotiation outcome was. So I think we do have to actually, shoot, what just happened? We do have to actually come to some sort of consensus. So Casey and I will, I mean, Casey, what are you willing to, it's really about the board. That's the only thing I think, and the shares. So how do you feel about DuPage's offer for the board and the 28% each on the shares?
Vote.
I'm sorry, you cut out. What?
I said I don't have a problem with the size of the board. I just don't like that Taylor doesn't have a vote.
Okay.
He doesn't have any business
So-
experience.
You're right, but it's still her baby.
But that's why she's still allowed on the board to voice her opinion.
Yeah, but she doesn't get a vote. So if it's something
Which has input.
change, then she doesn't get an option to say anything.
Then she can pay for
What
it
if you-
herself.
But the information that we got is that she really wasn't involved with the business side of it.
Which is
That,
so fun.
that Maxwell was running the business side of it.
Which ours was like, we want Taylor on the board. We want her to have a say. That's all.
What if you were to have,
What would we negotiate if we both had the same thing, right?
Well, I would
what if
say
you,
that if we were to concede the point and say Taylor can be on the board with a vote, then we
then
should
Cantor
get
can be on the board. Then Cantor
Yeah.
can be on the board.
yeah, we would get another person with a vote on the board. And
Which
that
is-
would then balance
Well,
it
I would
out.
be okay.
Go
I
ahead.
would be okay with that. Casey, would you be okay if Taylor's on the board, then Cantor's on the board from DuPage?
Yeah, that's fine, because our main thing was we wanted both sides to be heard and then have a third party, which you guys also said too.
Okay. Okay,
So
well,
the-
let's do that and make Cantor and Taylor voting.
Yeah,
Can we
that
do
sounds
that?
good to me.
Okay. Okay, so the last thing would just be the shares. So Casey, what are you,
Well, there
right
really
now
isn't
we're at 28 and 28.
about that, because that's what the investment was. That's what the value came out as. It's not like she put in because she thought they wanted 28%.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm okay
Yeah,
with
they-
that. 'Cause-
Here's what bothered me is we didn't have how many shares they started with.
See, neither did we. That was just a number that we picked. That was a round number that would be easy to
feel
work
like
with.
If they wanted us to come up with an actual, capitalization table or whatever to be able to figure this out, we should have had how many shares were initially there.
I agree.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was a guess. I felt the whole time like it was just a crapshoot.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't figure out the valuation, and I didn't know how many shares they were going to do. And I thought there's really no foundation under this. I mean, we could say it's worth whatever amount of money we want to and come up with some multiplier for some other company that we would compare it to, but it wouldn't really mean anything.
Mm-hmm. Because
Yeah.
I will say that the percentages that the other people had were smaller than what you guys came up with. That was the only thing that made it a little bit different when we saw
You mean
yours.
as far as the stake that Astoria and Prosper wanted? Because
Yeah.
DuPage is definitely right in there. I mean, as far as in between 25 and 40%. So, okay. All right. So I don't think there's anything else we have left to agree on. So is everybody good for the day?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
Okay. Okay. I didn't look, but I think there's only one case next week too.
Do we
Sweet.
both have to submit that, or how does that work?
So
I
when
think in the email, just
So
one of us
I copied
does the
him on the email I
negotiation.
sent to you guys.
Okay.
So he got our side of it. I don't know if you need to send him yours
Okay.
or not, but he got ours.
No, we already, we in an email we got from him, we had a link to fill out a pre-poll, and then afterwards we have to say what our negotiations were. So, and it says DuPage does not need to complete the poll. So,
Okay, cool.
So Casey, I'll do the poll since we.
Oh
So-
yeah. Here it says only one person per team needs. Oh, okay. I get what you're
And DuPage doesn't have to do it. So,
okay.
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 All right, sounds good. And next, I'm going to stop the broadcast and then let's